Hi everyone, my name is Keith Nitka. I'm the Battleship Operations Manager on board Battleship Wisconsin. And this week we're celebrating World Oceans Day, which was of course on Monday. So continue on that subject matter, I'm going to use the Battleship Wisconsin to discuss how all the seas and oceans are connected and how whatever you do in one ocean or body of water may eventually end up in another body of water. So the Battleship Wisconsin is a really good example of how this all works and how all the oceans and seas play together, of course. So everyone has heard, of course, how there are 7 seas and 5 oceans, but there are no fences. So they're all next to each other. You know, they're just neighbors. And the Battleship Wisconsin gets from point A to point B, traveling through different seas and different oceans. So we're going to start with Battleship Wisconsin. She was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In 1944. She's born and raised. She's a Philly girl, enjoys her cheesesteaks. And when she left Philadelphia, she did her shakedown cruise. And when she did her shakedown cruise, she was down Trinidad and Tobago, which is just at the northern end, the islands, the northern end of South America. When all was good, she traveled through the Panama Canal to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and then from Pearl Harbor to Lethe Atoll in the Carolina Islands to join the task force there. She took part in battles in Okinawa and Iwo Jima, and then up and down the Japanese coast. Eventually found her way into Tokyo Bay at the end of the war. And from Tokyo Bay, she traveled back to the United States with soldiers and Marines who were on their way home from the South Pacific Theater on Operation Magic Carpet Ride. So they left Tokyo Bay, had 5 days of liberty in Pearl Harbor, and then over to San Francisco, California. San Francisco is where she then dropped off those soldiers and Marines that she was bringing home, down the coast, through the Panama Canal, and home to Norfolk again. Now, after the war, she saw service for a few years, and she did mostly cruises to help midshipmen at the Naval Academy get their sea legs. So she left Norfolk, Virginia, went around South America, stopped in Rio de Janeiro, through the Straits of Magellan, Chile, Peru, Argentina, back through the Panama Canal. She was in the Gulf of Mexico, Cuba, Guantanamo Bay, Vieques Island, crossed over the Atlantic Ocean, here to Scotland and England, and France, and Spain. So all those places. Oslo, Norway, Copenhagen, Denmark, and then always back home to Norfolk, Virginia. She was decommissioned, but then a couple of years later, she was brought back to commissioning, and she joined the Allies and the UN forces to fight in Korea. So again, she left Norfolk through the Panama Canal, across the Pacific Ocean, spent time up and down the coast in North and South Korea. In 1952, she hosted the very first South Korean president and the very first lady of South Korea, before continuing back up into the gun line in support of United Nations troops. When that conflict ended, again, she was back doing cruises for midshipmen, again, traveling South America, across the Pacific Ocean, across the Atlantic Ocean, into the South China Sea, decommissioned again for the second time with her sisters, and then she sat in mothball for quite some time until the late 80s. In the late 80s, she came out of mothballs, was brought down here into the Gulf of Mexico, spent time in New Orleans, Pascagoula, Mississippi, before she made her way back home to Norfolk. We were going on a med cruise, but then Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and we ended up then going from home, Norfolk, across the Atlantic Ocean, through the Mediterranean Sea, through the Suez Canal, into the Gulf of Oman, the Arabian Sea, through the Straits of Hormuz, and then into the Persian Gulf itself. The Persian Gulf, we visited places like Bahrain and Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which both are in the United Arab Emirates. We did fire missions on Khafji and Kuwait City. And then when the war ended, we were then sent home again through the Suez Canal, back through the Gulf of Oman, the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, across the Mediterranean, back home to Norfolk. So you can see with her travels, She hasn't been all over the world, but she's been a fair amount of places. The Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, South China Sea, the Philippines, the Gulf of Oman, the Indian Ocean, the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf. All those places, the ship never leaves the ocean. She never leaves the water. So whatever you do here could eventually have ramifications here. Whatever you do here could have implications here. So you have to be careful with the oceans and the ecosystem, the ecology of the world. Because even though it's one big place, we all need this one big place to survive, and we have to help it live and thrive. So you have to be careful and you have to take care. Again, my name is Keith Nitka. I'm the Battleship Operations Manager on board Battleship Wisconsin, and I want to thank you today for joining myself and Battleship Wisconsin in our travels around the world. Have a great day.